20-minute. I did it in 18 actually. It's just a non-stop 70 burpees with a push-up, 60 V-ups, 50 kettlebell swings, 40 chins, and 30 handstand push-ups. And you break those up into sets. So 15 burpees is the first, then 10 V-ups, then 10 kettlebell swings, 10 chins, 10 handstand push-ups, then go back to the start again. Repeat that through until you've completed the number.
Yeah, rock on. I remember the podcast we did last time, you talked about being an old fit dude.
Oh, yeah.
That really resonated with me. So I kind of look up to you being an old fit dude, you know.
Huh.
And I thought, well, if I'm looking that good at that age,
Thanks,
I'm doing something right, you know. So it's always intriguing to hear what your workout schedule is.
Yeah, right. I'm just getting back into it, mate. It's that COVID just put me on my ass, cardio-wise, fitness-wise.
Yeah, I found that too. I got it pretty mild, and I don't know whether it was because I just didn't do anything for a little while. You know, when you come back,
Yeah.
I struggled. I had that sort of heaviness on the chest. It was hard to work out.
Yeah, I didn't know whether it was that, just lack of not doing anything, or probably a mixture of both.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just slowly getting back into it.
It was a real energy sapper, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
I found, like, I had COVID, and I think I probably had a similar experience to you, but my main thing was just no energy.
Yeah.
For a while, I just couldn't be bothered doing anything.
Yeah.
Like, I just felt flat, and my body just felt a bit achy.
Yeah.
Like a post-workout ache that just didn't go away.
Yeah.
Just in my lower back and my thighs.
Yeah, it's amazing the lower back seems a common...
Yeah.
Lower back, a lot of people seem to be getting that, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just annoying. Like, it wasn't like you couldn't operate with it.
Yep.
I wonder if
just,
that was
just
from
hung around.
Inflammation. You know, everyone's
I think so.
probably got a lower back.
I think so. I think a lot of us have just wear and tear in our lower backs.
Yeah, and it
just probably goes to those spots in your body that are maybe a little bit worn out.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit more inflamed.
Yep.
But definitely not the absolute killer bug that we've all been made to fear, was it? Like, I mean, it was really like, it wasn't the worst flu I've had. I've definitely had worse flus. Like,
oh yeah,
I came back from Bali one time. I think we went on a trip to Bali a few years ago.
Yeah.
Man, I was sick after that.
Yeah.
Well, you probably didn't sleep for 3 days.
I didn't. No. Yeah. Ate crap. Didn't sleep.
Yeah. Drank beers.
Probably had too many
bennies.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean,
did you use any fasting? Being the topic of our podcast today.
Yeah. Well, don't you think when you're sick you don't feel like eating?
Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah, I think that's your body telling you something's up, and
I think it is.
Yeah.
Man.
You need to rest.
Yeah.
About autophagy being one of the excellent things of fasting.
I reckon, talking
100%.
about the COVID thing, my appetite was suppressed during that period. I didn't eat as
I
much.
actually felt nauseous
Did you?
a couple of times, so I didn't eat. But
I always feel like hitting the herbal teas and just like warm drinks is a big one for me when I'm sick.
Yep.
Even if you don't have the chills, which I didn't get, but I just feel like staying hydrated. So heaps of water. I drink quite a lot of sparkling water. Herbal tea.
yeah.
Yeah, always makes you feel better.
Yeah, I was having the hot water, just boiled water with honey and lemon.
Yeah, how good's honey? Yeah, antibacterial.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But going back to the fasting thing, I
when
guess
you're
that's just your body. Sorry, I might cut you off. Just that it's your body's way of healing, isn't it? It's a natural way of healing.
Well, it's got nothing else to focus on really, other than getting well.
Yeah.
If you think about having food in your belly, your body's got to digest that and process it. And if it's not doing that, it's got other things to focus on.
That's right.
Yeah, well, it's a really an extra burden, isn't it? Like when you take on a big meal of food, then your body has to work to metabolize that food, digest it, excrete it.
Yeah.
Maybe you're busy trying to do other things. Yeah. So your body's really trying to fight that infection, mount a response to the virus or the bacteria or whatever it is that's causing the illness. So I think we do need to listen to our bodies more.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's probably something we're not good at because we're so conditioned to you got to eat 3 meals a day or for a long time there it was 6 meals a day, wasn't it? Like, that was the ethos for a while. If you wanted to go to the gym and get big,
you're definitely
you wanted to eat 6
bro
meals a day.
Yeah. I guess one of the things we can discuss later on and is the notion that you have to eat all the time, and that if we can link it back to exercise, we did talk about Rooster's exercise routine earlier. So you can fast and exercise, and you can build muscle, and you're not going to be
definitely
catabolic. You're not going to eat all your muscle. Your body's not going to eat itself. But we'll talk. We can talk about that. And I guess if we link it to sort of ancestral man, that's what we kind of the overarching theme of the podcast is, you know, they would have been doing sort of various intonations of intermittent fasting and fasting.
Yeah. Well, their bodies were adapted back then for starvation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our bodies aren't adapted for modern day heavy consumption of food. We're going against everything that our body is adapted for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we've lost that adaptation to burning fat as well. I think many people that follow the SAD diet that I think we spoke about last week, the standard Australian or standard American diet, we're just burning carbohydrates.
Yeah.
And it would be very, very seldom that we would fall into actually some sort of state of ketosis and burning fat. So
Well, like
we've
Rooster
just lost
said,
it.
I guess we don't have selection pressures. We don't have
No.
that pressure to catch food anymore, to survive, to build shelter.
No.
None of that. I think the ancestral man, they would have gone on a hunt. Maybe they didn't find anything. Maybe they didn't eat for 2 or 3 days.
Yep.
Maybe they picked a few berries along the way, found a few seeds, and then when they did actually catch something, they would come back and feast, and
Feast.
it would be
Yep.
party time. You know?
What I find interesting is, so we'll talk about this as we go. Like, you know, there's different responses from your body when through the different hours of fasting. So 12, 18, 24, 36, whatever. I'm interested to know as to back in primeval man days, their life expectancy was what, 30 or 40 maybe?
Very low,
You know,
yeah.
very, very low.
Yep.
But one of the benefits of fasting is autophagy, you know, where your cell repair and you're depleting your body of dead or unwanted
cells,
protein cells.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to grasp that concept of if they're fasting a lot and they're going through stages of autophagy and like protein synthesis from, you know, because apparently during autophagy your
tough one to
body
say.
deletes all those or removes all those dead, unused, unwanted proteins and actually uses it to create new amino acids. So you're actually sort of becoming healthier through the destruction or the removal of those dead cells. So I'm just wondering why their life expectancy was so low when they were going through all those sort of processes. I guess,
Well, if
you
you-
know,
if
there's
you
other
look at-
factors like modern medicine and stuff like that that keeps us alive longer. But
If you look at some of the studies that have been done on it, if they got past, I think it's about age 15, they live to our average age, which is
Okay.
80 plus.
yeah, right.
I mean, because they had to protect their young, they didn't have modern medicine, they didn't have modern birthing practices. If you actually made it past sort of 15 years old, you didn't get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger or die during childbirth or accidents or whatever it might have been. Yeah, their life expectancy was actually a lot longer.
Yeah, right. And I guess that's probably what brings the life expectancy down.
Yes.
Is those you know, deaths at childbirth, accidents. I mean, accidents would have happened, like, you know, like and getting killed.
A couple of
things
kids
like
running
that.
away from
Yeah, I mean,
the
going
camp.
to war,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
warring tribes or,
Yep.
or
Yeah.
getting taken down by an animal that you're trying to hunt. Like
Yep.
maybe you're trying to take down a tiger or...
yeah, or even poisoning. So I mean, at some stage, someone would have had to look at
It's trial and error.
a
would have
rock
been.
melon on the ground and
Yeah.
said, "Let's eat that."
Yeah.
You know? And if it wasn't something that you could eat, you're gonna die.
It's your turn to go first.
Yeah.
You have this one. I'll get the next one.
Go and eat
we'll
those
see.
poison berries.
Yeah. Rooster was all right. Okay, we can eat those. All right, good. Yeah.
So give it to the old one first.
But also
Yeah.
I think they had less control over their
Maybe they gave it
environment,
to the young ones.
in general.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they couldn't really control their food supply chain like we can now.
Yeah.
So there might have been periods where they had excessive... Like, we know that fasting works up to a point, but I don't think anyone's recommending not eating for 3 weeks. I mean, maybe some people are very occasionally, but they probably also went into periods of excessive fasting and malnutrition, which we know is not good, just
Yeah.
through, you know, natural climatic stuff or the area that they were in or over hunting or whatever it was. Whereas now I think we can do fasting in a very precise way where we're not coming up against those challenges.
We can set it in a modern day context, can't
Exactly.
we?
The
You know,
fasting for the modern man versus the ancestral man where they just had less control. They probably didn't have a good knowledge of nutrition, micronutrients, all that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
and we've got the comfort now in our modern life to fast and know that there's going to be food at the end of the fast.
I mean, you can break a
Not
fast
stressful.
whenever you want.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like I'm just doing a very mild fast at the moment, so I'm about sort of 16 hours in I'll probably go somewhere between 18 and 24 hours today. I've just had I've had one black coffee this morning with some C8 oil, some caprylic acid, and another black coffee now. But I can break that sucker whenever I want.
Yeah.
I could go to the shop.
You don't have to go out and find
2 minutes away. I'm not going out and having to hunt now and try and find something and hope that it's edible.
Yeah. To break that fast.
To break it, exactly. So it's all by choice now, whereas back in the day it was really through necessity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about, so do we all fast here? I mean,
Yeah.
I fast on a daily basis pretty much.
Yeah, I'll do.
So tell us what you do,
Well, I'll
CJ.
do probably 5 or 6 days a week. I like to, on the weekends when the kids are around, I like to sit down and have a breakfast meal with them, but we don't rush and get up and eat it. It'll be sort of about 8:30, 9 o'clock, unless we've got something to run off to. But every other day, it's, my last meal at night will be around about 6, family meal, sit down, eat with the kids, and then don't eat again till 12, 1, 2 o'clock, probably. Some days are a little bit longer, some are a bit shorter. We can talk about that because there is a bit of science around when you should eat, but that's kind of the protocol I run with. I try to break my fast with fats and protein. So I try to eat fats first, fats most, kind of the theory that I run with. We can talk about macronutrients down the track, but that seems to work for me. It seems to work pretty well. Weight control, scheduling, it's easy. Kids are running around in the morning to get ready for school. I can grab a coffee. Talk about when we should be having coffee too, I suppose. But yeah, that's sort of my.
So is that
regime.
3 meals a day?
I will squeeze 2 to 3 in between 12, 1 o'clock and 6 at night. Yep. I have done a few longer fasts. I mean, Smithy and I have done a 3-day fast together. We can talk about longer ones, but they're quite fun.
Yeah, most definitely. You feel great.
Yeah. I had a couple of issues. I was sitting at the table and needed to run to the toilet pretty quickly. But yeah, apart from that, felt really good. Took a couple of before and after photos. There's no sort of water weight there. There's sort of been stripped back, so it's a good way to cut weight. Not that I needed to fight it or anything, but it's pretty good.
I mean, it's a great way to get rid of a belly, isn't it? Like, you got a bit of love handles and a bit of fat around the front. Like it strips out visceral fat real quick. Yeah. If you do a 3-dayer.
Yeah. I found that I really needed to be, I guess the term is fat adapted, in that I changed my fuel partitioning from being predominantly carbohydrate based. Standard diet that everyone has. You wake up, you have cereal and milk, fruit juice, lunch you have your sandwich, you have some pasta for dinner. And that cycle, could talk about the hormones and the mechanics behind that a little bit later, but that cycle of always needing food, you eat, insulin comes in, reduces your blood sugar back down to normal, and you're hungry again. Yep. Where I found that if I predominantly ate sort of fat and protein, I didn't get that hunger issue. I was more satiated, and I was able to do longer fasts without feeling hungry at all. So I can quite easily go 24 hours without eating. And I think having that sort of switch from being predominantly or mostly carbohydrate, probably upwards of 400, 500 grams a day. I didn't really think about that at the time, but now being sort of under 150, 100 probably, I don't have a reliance on food. If I miss a meal or if I go out somewhere, I don't need to worry about eating. If the food that I like is not there, then I just won't eat. Yep. It's a little bit weird. People think you're a bit strange, but it works for me.
It's bloody liberating, isn't it, to not have that absolute reliance on food? Like, people get really panicked if they can't eat and you haven't fasted. it'd be like a big deal.
Yep.
Like say you were flying on a plane and they just serve you absolute crap and you didn't want to eat it. People will eat that stuff because they feel like they have to have a meal.
Yeah.
It's like this real motivation hanging over your head, like a fear. Like I've got to have a meal. I've got to stop.
Yeah.
Like this morning, for example, I'd been quite busy. I had to get my daughter ready for school, and it was just one of those busy mornings. And I'd planned to fast today anyway, but I wouldn't have had time to eat. So if I had have eaten, I probably would have eaten, maybe had the wrong choice, maybe had something that was quicker to eat. Usually your quicker foods are ones that aren't as good for you.
Processed stuff.
Processed food, yeah, exactly. Or maybe would have just had like a bowl of oats or something. That's not terrible. I still eat some oats sometimes, but it's so easy to be able to just skip a meal and still feel good. Like, I think once you get the hang of it and you've done a little bit of fasting, and it can be rough at the start, you don't really notice it at all.
Yeah.
I can do 18 hours and not feel hungry whatsoever. Maybe 1 or 2 minute periods of just a slight bit of hunger where you notice, oh yeah, my belly's a bit empty. But it's almost a feeling of emptiness, not hunger.
Yeah. Is it hydration maybe?
Yeah, look, it can be.
I think it's a bit of water.
Yes.
And the difference between the hunger sensation and needing a drink, I think are really quite similar.
Yeah, and I think that's a common one for people in general, is sometimes people mistake hunger for thirst.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
What about you, Roo? What do you...
Yeah, I've been fasting and doing keto for years now. I really got into the fasting predominantly just because I wanted to start the keto. I wanted to try that. And my body responded really well to keto. So I know you've got to cycle your nutrition plans and so on, but I always sort of go back to keto. I just get a lot of results from it. My energy levels are up. I've maintained, I like to try to keep tabs on my body fat percentages. So I find that I can maintain that even as I've got older. So I would recommend everyone who wants to consider fasting to start with a short fast duration. So I started off with 9 hours and then progressed it to 10, and then I went to 12, and I just progressed all the way. I now pretty much do on average a 17 and 7. So my family and I will sit down together pretty much regimentally at 7 p.m. at night and have a family meal. I won't eat again until maybe 12 o'clock the next day, 1 o'clock. And that meal is always have 4 eggs. I'll have some sweet potatoes, some avocado, maybe a bit of kale cooked up, and some fried almonds. And I just find that meal just satiates me massively. You know, I don't need to snack. If I do need to snack between, because my next meal won't be until 7, it'll be, a handful of nuts or something like that. Or sometimes I might even have 90% square of dark chocolate, or some blueberries and a bit of yogurt. That's a little snack if I have to. But I'll try to have my 2 meals either side of that window, my 7-hour window, if that makes sense. But I'll never forget, this is so cool, when I went from being full, like you were saying, CJ, about full carbohydrate-based diet and getting all my energy, like, playing footy back in the day and thinking I needed to eat a muffin, before a game of footy to get all those carbs into me and stuff like that, and 12 wheat bix and stuff like that. I realised that wasn't really working, and I wanted to change it. And I remember it took me about a week to week and a half.
Is this at the time when you were playing footy?
No. I'd finished playing footy.
Yeah.
This is when I tried keto for the first time. It took me about a week and a half to get fat adapted.
Yep.
And I do recall having a little bit of the keto flu where I was a little bit lethargic and a bit of a headache. And that was just my body adapting to not using glucose anymore and using fat and ketones for energy. And I did this workout one day, and it was like I was on what I could imagine being on drugs.
Speed.
Speed. I had this workout where I had to do jumping, sprinting, like strength-based work, and I felt so energetic. I felt so good. It felt like I was a teenager again. And this is when I was probably about 46, 45. And it just felt so good, and I'd love to get that again. But I think my body's adapted now over the years that it just now efficiently just coasts along and utilises fat and ketones in a way. But that initial adaptation from carbs to keto, I would recommend to anyone to give it a go.
Flick the switch.
It was a flick as a switch, mate.
It's crazy that you say that about footy because I remember, my standard meal before a footy game was pancakes, and I would get to the game and I would feel often I remember running feeling like my legs were so heavy and I had no energy.
Yeah.
I thought, what?
Totally agree, mate.
I had the same thought as you, years ago. If hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? If you could go back and you knew what you know now.
It's a learning process, isn't it?
How good we would have been.
Yeah.
How good we would have been so good.
I would have been playing games of footy on an empty stomach because I would have felt light. I would have felt clear in the mind.
A couple of eggs maybe beforehand, something
bit
light.
of protein based.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, the heavy leg thing. I just remember that happening often. I thought, why is this happening? I'm
So
fit.
true.
And then you get there and it's just the things you put in your body, the things you eat, really show through when you.
While we're on this topic, my young bloke, he's 14, and I haven't introduced him to anything like this. But I'm watching him wake up, have his brekkie, have his wheat Bix or his Vita Brits, whatever, in a bowl of milk. He has a wrap with chicken and eggs and stuff in it for lunch, and then he has he doesn't snack a lot, but then he'll have our meal, like it'll be a fish, a meat based, and then either salad or veggies, and he'll eat that with us. I just don't know whether to introduce that as a teenage boy, the concept of eliminating carbs, because I think his metabolism is
growing,
pumping,
and
he's hit puberty, testosterone and all that sort of stuff. So do you just let that sort of go?
Smithy, I think you've probably got some good insight about that. We've talked about this before.
Yeah, I don't think the science is really it's not 100% proven for anyone yet. Like they've done tons of clinical trials in like yeast and
mice,
fruit flies and mice and rats and all that sort of thing. And they're moving into definitely adults and they've got some really promising results. But I think if you're very old, you're over maybe 70 or you're younger and you're still growing, I'm not sure the evidence is there to suggest the fasting yet.
Yep.
I think it's more something when you're an adult and your body is the size it's going to be. For me, I think that's really the time when fasting is the most beneficial.
Good call.
And I think when you're younger, I think it's definitely not for young children. I'm not too sure about adolescents. I haven't really read any studies that particularly deal with that.
Yeah,
there probably are some out there, but for me, I think it's more once you've attained the physical stature that you're going to have in terms of your height and your body has stopped growing, I think that is probably the time to integrate. So I would say maybe start in your 20s, and then go through till maybe 65, 70. And then I think the evidence for the efficacy or the benefit maybe drops off into old age again, because once we hit old age, we're really worrying about maintaining muscle mass, fighting off sarcopenia, so age-related muscle loss. And I think that's very individual depending on what sort of body type you've got.
Yeah.
Like me, for example, I find it hard to hold weight. I'm very tall and lean. So I would imagine once I hit 70 or maybe even a bit younger, fasting might become quite difficult for me because you really got to make sure that you don't become old and frail and lose too much muscle. So, yeah, I think for kids, maybe hold off.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is a little bit individual as well, but I just don't think the evidence is there to really guarantee you that it's going to be beneficial, whereas I think it's pretty strong for adults now.
Yeah, definitely.
That fasting
That's
is
a
going
good
to
call.
be beneficial.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're using it too, Smithy? You do it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a little bit all over the place. My main goal that I'm trying to do is I don't want to eat 2 hours before bed, 2 to 3 hours, and I don't want to eat for the first couple of hours after I wake up. So just naturally, if I do that, and I'm also I'll try to get 8 or 9 hours sleep. What I'm really aiming for as my minimum is I just want to have a 14-hour window as my minimum where I'm not getting any food, and it just gives your digestive tract a rest. You're not really slipping into ketosis or anything like that, but you're just only compressing to a 10-hour window. But then on top of that, I like to mix it up also. So I'll do some like 18-hour stints, 16-hour stints where I'll have no food. Occasionally I'll do a 24-hour fast, which I'll probably do today. I'll probably just have dinner again tonight, like I had dinner last night. I feel great. And then occasionally I'll also do a fast where I might do 3 days. I've never actually done longer than 3 days, and I'm quite keen to do a 5-day fast, mostly because I think once you go into that really deep autophagy, which you get after about day 3, I think that's really beneficial to do once in a while. And I probably would do, if I was going to do that, I might do a little bit of a fasting mimicking fast where maybe I'd have nothing, just water and a bit of salt for the first 3 days, but then I might have a little bit of bone broth or something days 4 and 5, just to keep a few little bits of fat and tiny bit of amino acids coming in.
Yeah.
But I think those really longer fasts are beneficial, and particularly if you're trying to sort of detox and just get that really deep benefit of that deep autophagy. So I do mix it up. I don't have a strict thing that I do all the time, and I think there is benefit in keeping your body guessing. I think anytime you give your body a set thing that you live by and you don't change, I think it'll adapt to it. And I think sometimes there's benefit in giving it hardship in slightly different ways. So some days, and I do listen to my body too. So some days if I really feel like quite actually hungry and I feel like I need to eat, I'll listen to that. And some days I'll just go and not eat for a day. And yeah, it's been good. I feel so good when I'm fasting. Like when I'm burning fat, the mental clarity and just the smoothness in your energy release, I think it's unbeatable.
Yeah.
Like I remember at the end of the 3-day fast that Chris was talking about before that we did, on the end of the 3rd day, I had no hunger. I felt amazing, but I actually went and played golf. I'm a terrible golfer. Like I'm really bad, but I actually played the best round I've ever played.
Yeah, right.
And my mental clarity and my temperament were just so smooth. It was really nice.
Yeah.
It's a really nice way to be from a mental point of view. I think you just get a lot of clarity and a lot of sort of smoothness in how you feel.
Yeah.
And that's nice. I find if I eat something high in sugar and you get that insulin spike, I find it makes your temperament a bit more up and down as well.
Yep.
And you just don't get that when you're fat adapted and burning fat. It's just a nice way to feel.
I suppose it's a good time to also point out that, I mean, you've done a lot of fasting, and so you to go into a 5-day fast is that your body is already sort of prepped for it. You know, your body has been exposed to fasting. We probably wouldn't recommend anyone listening to this to jump into a 5-day fast, you know, or even a 3-day fast. You know, you really do need to prepare your body for fasting, particularly anything over 3 days or, 24 hours even,
I'd say 24,
Yeah.
Baby steps.
Yeah, definitely.
Ease into it. Like you said, start with 9, go to 10.
Yeah.
We're not doctors or medical professionals, so
we're just going by our own personal experiences. Yeah.
And I think easing in and then being fat adapted, like you were talking about, 9 hours is a good start, because really, if you sleep for 8 hours, you get a good 8 hours sleep, you're fasting for 8 hours.
Yeah.
So if you can do, like Smithy said, 2 or 3 before you go to sleep, hold off, maybe have a coffee an hour after you wake.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people use coffee. I use coffee during a fast, black coffee, no milk. I don't think a little bit of milk in your coffee is going to break too much of a fast. No. However, I think the timing of having coffee during your fast is probably good to think about. You don't want to wake up, as you wake up, your body's releasing cortisol to wake you up, and then probably does so for another half an hour after you're waking up. And when you're having coffee, obviously that's doing the same thing, sort of a chemical hormone. There you go. Well, cortisol.
Cortisol, yeah.
Yeah, I mean coffee being
sorry.
a chemical.
Yeah.
You're adding to your body. That's increasing your cortisol. So waiting an hour to eat or have coffee, I think, is a good procedure, protocol.
Yeah.
But there's heaps of protocols out there, isn't there? There's, you can do 1 meal a day. Some people do sort of 24 hours, eat once, eat a really big meal. I mean, that would have been a bit like Ancestral, man. You go out for a hunt, you bring it back, and you have a huge meal once a day.
Yeah.
Feast and famine.
Feast and famine, yeah. Your 5 and 2 diet, you talked about. Did you mention, I think you were going down the Volta Longo
Fasting mimicking
diet.
Yeah.
You can do those kind of ones, 5 and 2. I haven't really looked at Volta Longo stuff.
Yeah, Volta's interesting. He's got a really good protocol, and I think it makes fasting a lot easier for people, and it's probably a really good introduction, a lead-in. So he sells a product, or he's designed a product And I think one of his companies markets it. I think it's called Prolon maybe, and it's a 5-day.
Is it like a meal plan or a meal?
It's basically a box.
Yeah,
So they send you out a whole box, and it's got all your food in it for 5 days. But essentially, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, he's got a very set list of ingredients of food you eat. It's quite high fat. I believe there's no animal products in there, so it's very low in protein, so not many amino acids. And he's got all the micronutrient and sort of vitamin composition really tweaked. But essentially, you eat a reasonable amount of food for 5 days, but it tricks your body into believing that you're still fasting. So you still will slip into autophagy. You'll get all the benefits of a fast, but you're not going through that real, like it can be a little bit of suffering when you're new to it. If you're new to fasting and you do like a 3-day fast, and even when you and I did that 3-day fast, that was a few years ago, and that was my first 3-dayer. There was a rough patch on day 2 where I felt bad for day 2 in the morning. I think we're maybe into like, what would it have been, 30 hours or 36 hours or something. There was a period, a half hour there, I felt real rough. And I was like, if this is going to keep up for the next the next 36 hours, I don't know if this is going to be achievable, but you do get past it. But
it's you get to a kind of a point and then you're over the hill and it's almost.
I think it's that switch over.
Yeah.
If that switch over is not a well-trained pathway in your body where you aren't fat adapted and you're not used to burning fat, I think that can be really rough. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes, to the point where it becomes seamless and people will exercise, burning fat.
Yeah.
But I think Volta's system is really good, and I think especially if you're not used to it, I think it's going to make it more achievable for people.
Yeah.
And I think also he's using it in things like for cancer patients if they're doing chemo, and people that maybe have really spiky blood sugar where they're not sort of going to do too well just having nothing. So I've never done it. I'd be keen to try it. The only downside for me probably is that it's expensive. And one of the best things about fasting is it's free.
Yeah, that's right.
It doesn't cost you any money. Like, how many interventions do you know in the wellness sort of biohacking world where it doesn't cost you anything?
Yeah.
A lot of it is incredibly expensive, so probably allows you to even pay for and buy some better quality food.
Yeah.
When you do it.
In line with what you're saying there about fat adapted, I would probably recommend people get fat adapted before they start fasting.
Yeah.
That's just my own personal preference. I just eliminated all the complex carbs out of my diet first, got myself fat adapted, so I really increased my good fats in my diet, and then I felt that that change that I felt during that workout that I explained earlier, and then I started fasting. So my body was already sort of prepped to start utilising ketones and fat during those periods of not eating. I'd recommend that.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. I think however you do it, just do it in small steps.
Yeah.
So like for people, I recommend just do my very first step, which I like, which is just don't eat before bed for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Don't eat for a couple of hours when you wake up, and then build on that. Yeah. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Start eating a higher percentage of fats for your macronutrient breakdown and go from there.
Yeah.
Another one of the big names in fasting that has done a lot of research on fasting, Sachin Panda.
Yeah.
So what he's found, I think it was he did a study on mice or rats. There was sort of 4 groups. One group was given a high-fat diet and they could eat whenever they wanted. There was another group that was given high-fat but in a time-restricted period. What they found with... and then there was 2 other groups. One could eat whatever they wanted. The other one had it they could eat whatever they wanted, but it was in a time-restricted way. And what they found was the markers of health and longevity were better for both of the groups that had a time restricted on them. So then they've done those, I think they're trying to do those studies on humans, and they've maintained or lost weight. Their markers of metabolic disease went down, blood sugar went down, blood pressure went down. So there is evidence out there that it is helpful for people.
Oh,
Mice.
yeah.
Mice at least.
Definitely. Well, like type 2 diabetes, cancer, neurodegenerative stuff, cardiovascular risk factors.
Yeah.
It influences all those in a positive way. And all you have to do is think about how you're going to consume your food, even if you eat the same amount of calories, which I think was the crux of that study, wasn't it?
Right, yes,
so like
yep.
one of the groups of mice that was in a time restricted fashion,
Yep.
then one of the groups of mice that could have it whenever they want, even if they were consuming the same amount of calories over 24 hours, there was a massive benefit in the ones that did it in a smaller window.
That's right, yeah.
So,
okay.
so even if you don't want to go on a diet, you want to keep eating exactly what you eat, just do it in a shorter window, you're going to get the benefits.
Yeah. I think, I mean, calories in, calories out still holds true a little bit. I mean, that's biochemistry, right? It's not gonna
Yes.
change. But I think the way you eat, or the time you eat, if you look at that study anyway, it suggests that there's more to it than calories in, calories out. There's sort of hormone stuff. There's blood glucose, insulin releasing. If it's reducing your blood pressure, that's got to be a good thing.
Yeah.
And blood pressure and high resting blood glucose are good indicators for metabolic disease. So if those are coming down, like you say, it's one intervention that you can make that is free, and it can have some really huge health benefits.
And there's those those records of people who've been diagnosed with cancer going on to fasting as well. When I initially started doing a bit of research on the fasting, I read this thing where around the 48-hour mark, 48 hours to 72 hours of fasting increases the production of stem cells. And I didn't really know much about stem cells and what they were, but they're basically cells with no defined purpose. So your body creates these cells that don't have a purpose within your body at all, but if they are given the chance to produce, they are then used for healing purposes. So the production of stem cells can actually increase your healing. So say you've got, I don't know, a cancer in a particular organ of the body, those stem cells will go to that site and produce cells, but familiar or based around that organ. I found that really interesting. And beyond 72 hours, the production of stem cells drastically increases as well.
Yes.
Then you've got, just the whole shrinkage of tumours and stuff like that have been reported. I mean, it's an interesting concept when you put it towards an illness like cancer.
Yeah. I think cancer has, I think fasting in cancer or treating cancer with fasting is really promising, and there's probably really good research out there, but tumours really need sugar to grow.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, if you're really cutting out and you're really strictly cutting out, like if I had cancer, I would really, really strictly go onto a ketogenic diet.
Yeah.
Because you want to really minimise the amount of glucose that's available to those cancer cells to grow.
Yeah, okay.
There's a great book called Tripping Over the Truth. Travis Christopherson, I think, is the guy that wrote it. It kind of goes through the history of cancer drugs and how they kind of initially found chemotherapy drugs. But he said his kind of takeaway was, if what would you do if you got cancer? And he was saying, yeah, fasting, ketogenic diet. I think they call it the metabolic theory of cancer.
Yeah.
That cancer needs sugar to survive. If you starve it of that, it's a pretty good book. It's quite interesting. You wouldn't think that kind of topic. It's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
I think he also talked about hyperbaric oxygen and vitamin C, intravenous vitamin C, and things like that.
Tons of good stuff. Ozone.
Yeah.
Although a lot of that is getting sort of
getting deep.
Yeah, it's getting deep, and also I think things like intravenous vitamin C therapy and that sort of stuff is a little bit frowned upon in the conventional medical establishment. For me, I would be chasing it if I had cancer personally.
Oh, you'd try anything, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I absolutely would, yeah. But
I found it interesting also just with, sorry mate, cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Just with the production of growth hormone as well. So even just after the first 12 hours of fasting, and I found this interesting because, I like to maintain muscle. I like to train and strength training and so on. And I do know some guys who supplement or inject themselves with growth hormone. And I've never done it, probably can't afford it. I probably would because there are benefits to it. But after 12 hours of fasting, your body increases its own production of growth hormone. So you try telling a bodybuilder or a guy who's really into it that you should really fast to increase your own growth hormone. He'd be like, what? I'm gonna have a protein shake in 2 hours.
Well, that's one of the criticisms of fasting, isn't it? Is that you can't exercise on it. You can't build any muscle. You're gonna be catabolic. Your body's gonna eat your.
It's muscle, totally the opposite because within 24 hours you're actually increasing your protein synthesis, and like we said before, depleting all those dead proteins and creating new amino acids. I probably wouldn't recommend exercising or working out on a fast more than 48 hours. Maybe mild walking or something like that. Gentle exercise.
Maybe a very slow jog or a walk.
Exactly, but nothing strenuous.
Might be rough.
Yeah.
I think there is some really good research. I don't have it on the top of my head. I can probably find it. If we have show notes, I can throw it in there. But when we're talking about exercise, what are we exercising for? We want a homeostatic benefit, right? We want to do some exercise and then adapt and become better for the next time we do those exercises. So if you are fasting and we're getting the benefit of growth hormone from the fast and you do some heavy strength exercise, some resistance training, high intensity training, what happens after that training is, you get a release of testosterone and growth hormone. If we then go and eat straight away, eating releases cortisol.
Yep.
That blunts the effect of both the testosterone and the growth hormone. So it's sort of
productive.
Productive is the word I'm looking for.
Yep.
Yeah, to be eating directly after a meal. And I know, the bro science is you've got to get your protein in that anabolic window, they call it. You got to have 20. You got to get that food in straight away.
In the window. Yeah.
Otherwise, that workout was useless, which really makes no sense.
And the best source of getting that protein in is a protein shake manufactured by.
Oh yeah,
pea protein powder.
Because it's better.
Nice whey protein.
Yeah, it's faster absorbed if it's a protein shake.
Yeah. Which when you think about it, that's really not ideal.
I actually think the best time to exercise is when you're in a fasted state.
Definitely.
Wait for a little while after you've exercised.
Yep.
Really get those benefits. Maybe even wait like an hour or two and then refeed and refeed well.
Yeah.
Getting protein, amino acids, good fats.
That's
and really refuel with the right stuff.
Yeah. You might
I think you're turbocharging the benefits of your fast.
Yeah.
You might even use a little bit of carbohydrate at that point.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Yeah, we still have to have some. Well, you're always going to have some carbs.
Yeah.
You can't eat a zero carb diet.
Yeah, and it's interesting. On a Friday night, our family has homemade pizza night, and generally my wife will make the bases out of dough and stuff, gluten-free, all that sort of stuff. But I often find the next morning on Saturday morning, and then I'll often do a full fast on a Saturday, but Saturday morning I'll wake up and my muscles are full. They are bloated. So after a whole week of fasting, high protein, high fat eating, I then had that Friday night of a pizza night, and then the next morning I'll wake up and my muscles feel a lot fuller than they were during the week. And I don't know whether that's just like the carbs kicking in and the muscles responding to that.
Well, muscles store glucose, don't they?
Yeah, I guess it's a refueling or refilling of the muscles of that. And there's a stark difference that I feel and that I can notice as well when I look in the mirror.
Do you really look forward to Friday nights?
Yeah, I love them. It's all the wind down as well,
Yeah,
and
of course, yeah.
When I love my red wine, we'll have a pizza and a couple of glasses of red. I think you've also, talking about all these commitments with nutrition and training, you still got to live life, enjoy a nice red and a bit of chocky and. It's just all, we've spoken about this before about balance.
Of course, you've got to have balance.
The 80-20 rule. Did you talk about that last podcast?
Yeah,
I think that's a pretty good way to live your life. You could do a whole podcast on that, couldn't you?
You're going to fail if you try and be strict all the time.
Yeah.
You're going to fail.
Yeah, and that's probably why most people fail those mainstream diet plans.
Yep.
You've really got to, and we're talking about, keto and even all the other nutrition plans, they're not short duration things. They become a lifestyle. It's not a lifestyle. It's not a short duration diet. in effect to lose weight or get skinny for the wedding and that sort of thing. You're choosing a nutrition plan that suits your lifestyle and that you can sort of adopt and practice for the rest of your life.
Yeah, make more good choices than bad choices.
Yeah.
And it's going to work out in the long run, isn't it? And
yeah.
find out what works for you.
Yeah.
Because everyone's a little bit different.
So should we talk about eating then? We've talked about fasting and, the benefits. You can't really have fasting without eating.
No, but before we go, just on that point about choosing a plan, I just think people need to make a decision as to why they want to fast. And a lot of people go into fasting thinking that it's going to strip them of their body fat and make them look fitter and toner.
Which you can do.
Definitely, and that is one good side effect. But just don't ignore all those excellent health benefits that are happening inside that you probably don't know. All the anti-aging, all the cell reproduction, all the the healing and the decrease in inflammation.
Yeah,
it's got some massive health benefits to it.
Like anti-aging, like you will live longer if you practice some form of fasting.
Yeah.
You just will. So you're going to go in, you're going to hit autophagy at times, you're going to be cleaning up your senescent cells, which are your sort of old broken down cells, which are pro-inflammatory, releasing cytokines, which you've probably all heard about during the COVID thing, these cytokine storms.
Yep.
So
Explain that, mate. Explain that, cytokines.
So, like in the context of COVID, we have this cytokine storm, which is this inflammatory storm, which basically goes through and wreaks havoc through your whole body and damages all your organs and can lead to death.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, cytokines are like a pro-inflammatory thing that cells can release, and it's usually fat cells that release cytokines.
Okay.
But which might be one of the reasons why people who are heavy and have more body fat are more affected by COVID, because you can actually release more cytokines through your fat cells. But as we age and cells get damaged, we do get these senescent cells in our body, and they're basically cells. They're not really metabolically active anymore. They're not really doing their function.
They're kind of dead cells.
They're kind of dead cells, but they're still floating around. They're still in there. They don't serve a purpose, and they're actually increasing as we age. And what they're doing is they are a pro-inflammatory cell. So they're increasing your amount of inflammation in your body. So if we're practicing fasting, doing autophagy is obviously the process autophagy, so self-eating. You're going to go through and eat and clean up some of these cells. You're going to break them down back into their building blocks, which are amino acids. You're either going to use those amino acids to make energy, or you're going to use those amino acids as building blocks to build new functional cells. So the anti-aging benefits there are massive. You're going to increase the amount of NAD, like an energy molecule in your body. NAD is what the mitochondria use to make ATP, which bodybuilders would realise is what makes our muscles contract and what keeps us alive. So if we're fasting, we are increasing NAD, which drops off as we age. We're getting rid of these senescent cells. We're activating genes, which will switch on pathways, which are going to help in a number of different ways. We're going to build more mitochondria. So it's incredibly powerful, and it's something that I think everyone should try and embrace.
Yeah, and just the benefits of ketones in your body for health, heart health and brain health.
Yeah, clean burning energy.
Yep.
We don't always need to have carbohydrates in our body. We can make carbohydrates.
Absolutely. Gluconeogenesis.
Yep.
So
even if you are exercising and fasting, I think it's about 8 hours that you can restore or restock your muscle stores of glycogen, glucose, from just making it yourself.
Yeah.
Gluconeogenesis.
Well, like exercise and fasting really have a lot of similarities. It's a slight hormetic, like it's a stressor on your body. So you're stressing your body to a certain extent. Our bodies are designed to operate under adversity. So even if it's like exposure to heat, like in a hot sauna, or you're exercising or you're fasting, you're getting this mild stressor. It's telling your body, hey, switch on these pathways because of adversity. So we're going to stop focusing on growing for a second, and we're going to focus on efficiency and wellness, and that's going to have really, really positive effects. So if you're putting the two together, exercise and fasting, I think that's really a recipe for some really positive changes in your health.
Yeah.
Before we go, what would you recommend be a good protocol to start with? So if someone's never fasted before in their life, what's a good way to get into it?
14 and 10.
Yep.
Very first week, very first 2 weeks. Just have 14-hour window. Don't
14
eat.
hours? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably just start off with a minimal amount of hours that you think you can handle.
Yeah.
And then go to that and then extend it.
Eat when you're hungry in the morning. I think utilising the 8 hours of sleep is pretty good.
Yeah.
There's 8 hours of fasting right there. I think Smithy mentioned it before, no food a couple of hours before bed. So you're going to eat your dinner. You could have a big meal. A couple of hours before you go to bed, 8 hours sleep, and maybe an hour after you wake up.
Yeah. I know the 18 and 6, so 18 hours of fasting and 6 hour eating window is a recommended ratio. But even though I'd still probably start off a little bit less than that. And also recommending anyone who's fasting to just ensure they drink a lot of water during that fast, and also keep their salts and minerals up.
Salt's a big one when you're fasting.
Definitely, yeah. Your magnesium. You might need to buy a couple of supplements to accompany your fasting period because, you're not consuming those nutrients, and your body still needs them for function. So.
Interestingly, the one issue that I had with fasting, I'd bend over, and as I'd stand up, I'd get really lightheaded.
Bit of postural hypotension.
So adding salt got rid of that.
It's a bit of a treat as well.
Salt, yeah.
Yeah.
I found like day 3 of my fast, it's not hard in the sense that you're hungry, but it's your brain's used to putting food in your mouth.
Yep.
Put in a couple of little grains of rock salt. It's like a little treat for you.
Yeah.
Have some water with it,
Suck
or some
on those
herbal
bad
tea.
boys.
That's a bit of flavour.
Yeah. When I say salt, I'm not talking about normal table salt that you see in the white container. It's proper sea salt or
I usually have like the
or
pink
rock salt.
Himalayan rock salt or
Yep.
something like that. You
Yep.
can crunch it up. It's like you're chewing something up.
Yeah.
It's a psychological thing because
Lovely.
there's definitely a big psychological component to fasting.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's a bit of a it's a bit of a head fuck.
Yeah.
You're used to putting stuff in your mouth and you don't do it for 3 days. It's really weird.
Yep.
Especially people around you are eating.
And the ritual of sitting down for a meal with your family. So when we did that fast, I had a bit of bone broth and I'd sit down, putting something in your mouth. It's odd, especially for young kids. Dad, you're not eating? It's a bit weird, So that whole ritual of, sitting down was different to what the rest of the family were eating, but having something psychologically, I think, helps too.
And the increase in thirst people will find that the first time they start fasting. So that's the importance of water to drink it before you get thirsty, obviously, like any normal situation. But you will find that you become thirsty and more parched during your fast. So it's so important just to maintain your water levels and obviously not going too extreme to that, and your salt levels as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, man,
Good stuff. That was good. I think that was a good introduction to fasting.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll revisit that in the future.
Yeah.
Maybe share a few experiences if any of us do any crazy
Yeah.
fasts.
And like we said before, we're not doctors. We're not giving medical advice. We're just giving our own personal sort of anecdotal sort of advice and what we've researched over our own time, to prepare ourselves for trying something a bit different.
Encourage people to go and do their own research, find out about it.
Definitely.
And then, do what's right for them.
Yeah, do what feels good for you. Try out a few different ways.
Listen to your body.
Listen to your body. That's the most important thing always.
Yeah.
I would say.
Beautiful.
Good note
stuff.
to finish on, Smitty.
Yeah, good stuff.
See you guys next week.
All right. See you, lads.
See ya.